It's not getting it.
Since we've gotten through a few of our favorite things, we've gotten to the good part of the show. And the good part of the show is...
We'll see whether this is the good part or not.
Oh, yeah, we probably will. And I think you have tuned in on a great day because this is the relationship talk. So, I didn't actually prepare questions, which normally I would do. I wanted this to be an open and candid and funny discussion about relationships, kind of the good, the bad, not just relationships like because you're in a couple, but I do know that there are at least a couple of single people at the table, and there may be things that they have that are funny or questions or things that they'd like to throw out to the panel about the opposite sex and why do women do that or why do men do this? And I thought this particular group would be really funny to have that talk with.
I just want to know, when you first approached Anonymous Female, did she give you her name or did she say, I'm Anonymous Female? Because
Have you not heard the How We Met story?
No, I
As a matter of fact, she did not just give up her name.
See?
She did not give me Anonymous Female. She gave me almost nothing when we first got together. I actually...
A face full of mace.
It
was just a cold shoulder.
It was a very chilly shoulder. In her defense, she says meeting new people, she is shy, and I am
not. I
am not shy at all, which is probably why I'm hosting a podcast out there in podcast land. It took me a little time to actually get her to open up and start talking. But when she did, her trademark sense of humor came right out because after I had tried to talk to her several times, she came into a coffee shop that we used to frequent with a coworker that is a good friend of both of ours at this point. And I said, being myself, what are you cheating on me? And she said, you want to jump in? You want me to go ahead and finish?
Yep.
I want to hear your story.
That was her answer. Yep, sure am. And then her coworker.
Now the ice is broke.
Yeah. Then the ice is broken. Then her coworker says, "So, how do you want to do this? You want to split this every other day, or you want to get the first half of the week and I get the second, or you get the second half of the week, I get the first? How do you want to do this?" And then we all became fairly fast friends, and I think. Not too long after that, we wound up exchanging emails, which turned into exchanging numbers and a wild amount of texting. I think the only reason I can text today is because I started dating this lady.
As it slowly builds.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
Very good way to do it.
It was excruciating waiting for responses.
Yeah, and I literally never. If you were looking for a text from me, it was gonna be yup, on my way. That was about as far as it was going.
So based on something you just said, Mario, I'll pose this question to everybody. In relationships, friends, good or bad?
Being friends first.
Friends, the ladies got friends, good or bad to the relationship. If the man has friends, good or bad to the relationship.
Of the opposite sex?
Do you mean just what their friends bring to it?
What their friends usually say,
Yeah.
comments, what they think, how does it influence your relationship? And does it have an influence on the relationships?
I would say it most definitely does have an influence on the relationships, and it completely depends on the friends in question, what their level of integrity and what their motives are, and what.
How do you know what their motives are?
You don't until you see their actions and how they act, and what kind of person they are. I mean, there are some people who.
But wait! Before you answer,
yeah, of course, and how they feel about you.
Let me jump in. Before you answer. Say your name first, because the podcasters have no idea who's talking. So that first exchange was Dave
brought it up.
Tiemann posing the question, Ben answering, and now Chris.
Rebuttal.
Yeah, I guess. So my thought being, even with good or bad friends, it is their level of comfort with you and your level of comfort with them, because it's very easy to ignore the best of advice, even if it's coming from a great friend in a great spot.
Yeah.
And as a friend, you also walk this line where you cannot unsay things.
Yeah.
And that becomes very, very tricky to deal with. So I think friends are usually bad influences on relationships, because either they're not honest with you or just walking on eggshells sometimes.
Okay.
I got a comment on this. Like Big Dave. Fortunately, my wife has some very beautiful women that are her friends. So my wife and I have an arrangement, and they're called WAGs. And WAG stands for Wife Approved Girlfriends.
Oh.
And you can flirt with wife approved girlfriends in front of the wife. You can hug them, you can kiss them, they can kiss you back. As long as
on the
it's
cheek,
in front
I'm
of the
assuming.
wife.
I'm
Oh
assuming.
no, I get some lip.
Okay.
No
all right.
tongue, no tongue.
Okay.
All right. I'd like to go
You
there.
definitely
but
got wife approval. This is amazing.
That goes beyond the bounds of the WAG issue.
Yeah. Okay,
There
okay.
are parameters. here.
Okay.
However, my wife and I have been married now for 34 years.
Oh.
And we do have separate friendships and separate lives. And I think that's very essential to our relationship. That we have certain friends that I'm not going to hang around and she's not going to hang around. It leaves a lot of diversity in the marriage, a lot of diversity in a relationship. Plus, it leaves you somebody to blame something on when you screw up. So in your case, good. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's hear from. I was just gonna say, let's hear from somebody who is I don't think in a relationship currently.
This is Brian. I am not in a relationship currently, but I actually want to add to what Ben was saying is, I think a lot of it comes down to, you say motives, but they say that you are sort of the average of your closest 6 people that you spend time with. So I think depending on what the friends, like what their baggage is that they bring from all their past relationships, really affect the conversations that they're having. And so if they slightly feel distrust in you, they've had some baggage from that, it can definitely cause some negative things to happen in your own relationship. You might end up defending yourself for reasons you shouldn't need to, and it just brings an interesting dynamic to anyone's relationship.
That's a good point. You should never have to defend yourself. If you have to defend yourself, you have to ask why you were in a relationship with that person.
Agreed.
Or
I don't
why are you
necessarily-
friends with that person?
Yeah, I think
Because somebody's way off base, and it's either you for
Okay.
being with that person, or you for being friends with that person.
Bingo.
And it does make you ask yourself that question, and I think that's a very difficult question to ask.
Yeah.
But I think it also depends on how open you are with your friends, because they don't know the other side. They only see what you say and what you do, and there's a dynamic there that you never really reveal because you want to be in the best light.
Yeah, you never talk about the clown
So-
suit fantasy. That's just the one you just leave alone. That's too far
You
out.
have a clown suit
But-
fantasy.
We're leaving that alone, Pat. We're leaving that one alone.
I thought Lane would say that, but oh my God, Dave.
But really, to me, unless my friends ask for advice, I very rarely say anything. Because I've been in that situation where I'm no longer friends with somebody because we didn't agree with who they were dating. And they're no longer together, but it ruined a friendship.
Yeah.
I absolutely. So it's, you just have to be there for them, and, not to the point where you're hurt and you're giving all this emotional, distress or whatever, but, in the end, just don't say anything, be there if you can, and,
And
Unless it's an extremely abusive relationship.
well, and
feel
that's a
sort of
whole
compelled.
different,
That's a different
that's a
ballgame,
whole
but
different
obviously-
dynamic.
But I think I agree 100%. I've seen relationships, friendships torn apart over differences of opinion with respect to relationships.
Sometimes you have to tell them, you need to do what you think is best. That's a great way to step away from that.
Yeah, I think the only time that I mean, my friends tend to ask me about relationship advice a lot. And I try to remember that at the end of the day, you know, especially if it's a very serious long-term relationship or a marriage, that at the end of the day, you know, I don't want to be the person that said, you need to divorce that broad, because they're probably not going to, which means you've said something you can't take back, and now they're not gonna. Now they're gonna distance themselves from you because.
Well, especially if they told the other person what was said.
What was exactly. So yeah. So I try my very best to give the best advice I can give without stepping probably stepping to the step I need to step to, but the one that I'm sure can damage our friendship because
I got caught in a very difficult situation one time where I had a friend of mine got divorced and called me up talking suicide. Whoa, you ever get hit with that?
Actually, that happened to me once too.
So, you know, you get hit with something like that, that's such a load. It's just a load, and overall I knew he wasn't serious, and then, so after a while, I said to him, look, I got nothing to talk to you about. I'm not the person to be talking to you about. This is not what I need to be doing with you. This is not about our friendship. This is just, if you want to talk about this, you need to go talk to somebody that can help you. So I'm not here to help you. But you got to distance yourself from something like that, because there's no expert in the world that can handle that type of conversation. That's difficult. That's really, I almost had anger towards this, and in fact I did develop anger, because you're putting me on this? Really?
Yeah, like they make you the keeper of their life, literally. And I'm like,
Well, I think in that situation, the very first thing you need to do is try to make sure that they understand that in this situation they need to seek professional help.
Oh yeah, quickly.
I can't advise you on that. I'll do anything I
No
can
skills.
to help you get that professional help. But everybody here, I'm telling you, if somebody comes to you and says that they are contemplating ending their life, you need to get them to a suicide prevention professional.
Quickly.
Yes.
yeah.
No.
I mean, yeah, you can
No
scoop
questions.
them off the floor, but where you're scooping them to has to be some actual help.
Right.
So this is Brian. So it seems like we're kind of talking about the friends' perspective of folks and their relationships, and I think it's good to keep in mind. I think a lot of times that when someone's in a relationship, if things are going really well, they're only talking to their partner about how awesome things are in their relationship because they can talk to them about that. If things start going negative, that's when they start reaching out to their friends and saying, hey, this is going on, or this isn't going so well. And then I think as a friend, you start getting that perspective that maybe this person isn't right for them, even though maybe it's a good relationship. And so this negativity starts building around them, whether it's with their family or their friends. And that's when maybe your advice wasn't well informed.
Or the best.
For the best.
Yeah.
And you start telling them, I don't know if this person's the right one for you, when maybe in fact it was.
This big Dave, I do want to say something. Now we kind of talked about some negative stuff here. I want to talk about something very positive. And that's my relationship with my wife. On how marriage works to make it work long term. Is that when you get married and you're young, you've got so much exploring to do with each other. But the real deal about marriage and the relationships in the long term has to be the journey, the long-term goal of it, and what you got to do to get through it. Because if you're going to make that final commitment to get married, and I think too many people make it too quickly, you got to be willing to get old with each other. And if you can find a way to get old with each other, that's a really cool thing. Because it is a journey. And everybody in podcast land knows the panel here knows my wife, podcast land does it. She is a Sicilian Armenian from the North Shore of Boston. I'm lucky I'm still alive. But
in one of these podcasts, we're going to have Big Dave tell you his frying pan story. Not today, not today, but we are going to have one.
But anyway, it's just, I'm a blessed man that we have found ways to maintain our relationship. She's been down with my mother who broke her ankle now for 2 months. And I'm all of a sudden living a single life after all these years. And it sucks. I'm ready. I'll go down on the 26th to get my wife and my mother. I'm going to drive them back from Florida and get her home. And I'm ready to see her. It's been a long time. But we also have such a great relationship that we're able to maintain that, even though through times of being separated from each other.
Well, this is Dave, and I'm the worst person to ask this question of. I'm happily, and everybody knows, I always have a smile. I'm the happiest guy in the world. I wake up in the morning happy, I go to bed at night happy. I am now celebrating my 44th anniversary of being divorced.
Oh, man.
I've had the greatest ride in the world, and I love women, and I love relationships, but the reason I posed the first question is, I find that sometimes friends are your worst enemies when it comes to relationships. Because there's certain things built into friendship where you lose that friend once you know they found that permanent mate. And they sometimes will sabotage, more often than you want to know, whatever's going on in your relationship. So what I learned a long time ago is, I don't listen to my friends when it comes to my relationships. Period. Don't care. I could have it less. When it comes to finding something out about another friend who is in a relationship, I choose not to tell them, because the natural instinct is to not believe you. And why are you telling me? And I've discovered this over the years. Just let it happen. Whatever's going to happen will happen.
Not
And
my circus, not my
We
monkeys.
should not
That's my
be
favorite
influenced
saying.
by outside influences, or should we become an outside influence? We have a very good friend who's going through a divorce. I absolutely knew it was going to happen because of stuff I saw and heard. I never said a word. It happened on its own.
Yeah.
So you just learn over the years. At 68, I've learned it's just smart to walk away. Don't say anything. It will happen. It will happen on its own. And if they happen to stay together for 20 years in a miserable life, then that's their choice.
That's true.
But
They're a bad choice.
It's a bad choice, but it's their choice.
But it is their choice. Yeah.
That's so. In the sense of relationships, relationships are tough. I mean,
It takes a lot of work.
I'll ask another
lot of
question.
work.
Do you meet somebody, date them, get engaged, get married, and then move in together? Or do you move in together and live together for 2 years before you decide to get married?
Or even 8 or 10.
Or 8 or 10, whatever it is.
I think living together first is important.
I went with option 2.
Living together first.
Yeah.
For how long?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Michelle and I never spent 2 weeks together in 4.5 years of dating.
So you never lived together,
Absolutely not.
but kind of.
And never lived together, period.
But when you were together, you were together.
It's the secret
But when
of
I
the
married
longevity.
her, I also took the poor girl out to Oklahoma.
Well,
I worked in the oil field, so I was gone 2 months, 3 months at a time, sometimes overseas.
and
So she was already used to me
and
not
your
being around.
relationship worked out.
So we slowly built into it. And it took a lot of adjustment time. And she could only cook Italian food when I met her, which I loved Italian food, but shoot, after 3 months, I told her, call my grandmother up and learn how to cook some fiddles, so this shit's getting old.
I know with my ex-wife, we didn't live together or anything first, and I've always thought we just didn't know each other as well as we should have, and of course I am saying she is my ex-wife, and I'm glad of it. So I guess for me, living together has been much better for me.
But we also have another caveat, is that Michelle and I never had children. We practiced a whole bunch, but never had children, and so that puts a whole different
Oh, it sure does.
dynamic
How many of
into
your
a
friends who are
relationship.
married have said they would get a divorce except they have kids? Oh my God, the
A bunch.
numbers
Wait,
crazy.
Yeah.
Kristen weigh in on the
Live together or
live together.
Oh yeah,
Not.
trust me, I was waiting to call on Chris.
I would always highly recommend living together. It just seems to be the smartest thing, man.
I've seen it work both ways, but
just
I
the
am a
individual.
proponent for living together
It
first.
really is an individual thing.
Well, it makes the most logical sense, to be honest, because then you get to know each other's living habits.
It's ripping the
and-
Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
You don't wanna wait
It
to
is,
find
but-
out, sort of.
Well, if you
Yes.
figure out you're
But
incompatible as
my,
housemates,
I
you don't have
have
to go through the
cousins
divorce.
that just got married a
Or you
little
do.
over a year ago, and
Yeah.
I mean, their parents are very, very, very Christian, and they were not
Sure.
allowed to live together. So, but they're perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
It's
they're. I mean, it.
certainly
that's why
a
I said I've seen
case-by-case
it work.
basis.
I've seen it work both ways, but it's definitely. I think you bring your past experience to it
Yeah.
as well.
I think there's some probability in mathematics there that
Yep.
The
That's
data
kinda
analyst,
where I was
wait,
going.
hold on. The data analyst says there's probability and mathematics that is probable in this equation. Brian?
if there's a proportion number of people who grew up that with a household that said you won't be living together until you're married, there's going to be a portion of relationships that would have worked had they moved in together and then decided and ended up moving together after marriage. So
Brian, do you have an algorithm for this?
we can create one next time.
Rio's on fire.
Could be eHarmony Part 2.
I agree though, regardless of living together before, it just so happens that they got married and they just happen to be compatible. But I think it's better to live together first so you can figure that out before you seal that deal.
Unfortunately, though,
It's
it's
just you're gaining
also
more
how
knowledge.
honest you are with somebody, because you're gonna hide all kinds of shit if you're just prone to doing that.
Yes, you will. Of
And
course.
once you live with somebody, it's a little bit harder to hide that
That's
stuff.
what I mean. It is harder to hide stuff like that whenever you live with somebody because you're around them on a constant basis. So that person's going to figure that out before you get married as opposed to after. And I think it's better that you figure that out before you get married as opposed to after.
People live together in marriages all the time and hide stuff for
Yeah.
years.
That's true. That's true.
This is Chris. So I just looked this up because I was curious. So according to the numbers, this is literally the exact opposite of what both you and I are saying.
Oh, really?
More on the line of what Big Davis was saying. According to the statistics gathered by the U.S. Attorney of Legal Services, living together before getting married doesn't accomplish the goal that couples think it will. A couple who does not live together prior to getting married has a 20% chance of being divorced within 5 years. If the couple has lived together beforehand, that number jumps to 49%.
Wow.
That's why I go to the numbers.
But
Actually,
Brian's algorithm right
So
there.
Brian, we just
Just
made Brian's mind up for him.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
will
yeah.
not be living with somebody before he gets married.
Yeah.
but
I don't believe
There might
Whether or
also
not-
be more cultural things that go along with that. For example, you might be more religious and not prone to, divorce might be seen as wrong and all those other things. I don't know.
Are
It's an
they
interesting number.
actually happy?
To go to your next question,
But
how
staying
many
together
people
because
do you
they
know
have to.
that are married or in a serious relationship that stay together because they have children?
Yeah,
Almost every single person I know
Thank you.
that is married.
it's kind of sad.
And
Not kinda
honestly,
sad.
my
That is
parents were the
taking a
same
leap.
way when
That's right.
when I was young. They got separated and almost got divorced, and it's just, to me,
Yeah,
it's
but
not
that's what
something you
the
walk
reason-
away from that easily. And no, you don't stay together for your children. That's the worst thing you can do.
I find that
They
strange.
see the worst side of you because you're not happy.
Yeah.
So it's, to me, and in the situation I was in, it's better to let them see the best side of you separately.
Yeah.
So I got a question. to take it off of this particular topic about relationships, but so that everybody has an opportunity to chime in. Your best and worst relationship experiences. And let's actually just take it around the table, and we'll start with the youngest member on our table. Let's go, Brian.
I'm doomed.
As Lane is slinking away from the table.
So-
Are you leaving?
No, cleaning.
When you say
I
best,
am not
I mean, you
involved.
mean like parts of it that were the best, or?
Yeah, just, you actually left that relationship with fond memories. Maybe it didn't work out, but you actually left it with fond memories versus you want to strangle that person.
Honestly, I think my best and my worst are probably the same. The best one I had was through college, and going through those years of education and experiencing all these new things of a city and learning about what I'm going to become as an adult.
Where did you grow up at, Brian, just so I understand the correlation here?
I grew up in South Kansas near Oklahoma, out in the
Okay.
sticks.
Okay.
So I moved from a town that was about 10,000 people to, which was a factory town.
Nice sized town, though.
Yeah.
It's enough to give you,
Very synonymous with my upbringing. My hometown was 10,000 people, and then I moved here. So
Yeah,
Anyway,
so it was
didn't mean to interrupt you, but I need to understand that.
yeah, and then
please continue.
And then I moved to Lawrence, Kansas, to attend KU, and it was a huge cultural shock, right? I mean, there's a lot of different types of people there, and so going through, you have all these learning experiences through your early 20s and figuring out who you're going to be as a person, and then I was dating someone there that we were learning together who we were going to be, and going to KU basketball games, going to different events around town, and so those are awesome memories. I would say those were the best, really learning about myself and growing with someone else. So with that high peak comes the huge valley when things don't go so well, and I would say that relationship was both the best and the worst for now, but I still have many years to go.
Yeah. Which is why I wanted to start young, and we'll end on the other end of the table. So let's go with Carolyn next, our other new podcast panelist.
I think I remember feelings more, than specific people. And I think, it was a person, but I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily blame a person for my worst relationship experiences. I think obviously there are two people in a relationship. You have to take responsibility for things that you are deciding you want to ignore, or if you want to look at things with rose-colored lenses and ignore the reality, then I'm a firm believer in having to take responsibility for a relationship going south. I think when I was young, I was in my 20s, definitely. I was a young kid in a big city, and I think that because I was a little bit too naive to things, or I didn't want to pay attention to things I should have paid attention to.
Called red flags.
Yes, there you go.
And you wanted to
Thank you.
believe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You do, you
Yeah.
want to believe.
Yes. That turned into something that was really hurtful for me, and it was hard because it involved people that were my friends. It was a big network of people that I knew, and it changed, kind of changed my perspective on things, but for the best. It's not, I learned from it. And I had great times too, also, So, but I mean, I'd say that was the worst. I honestly have to say, I'm not just saying it because you're here.
yeah.
I really, I really enjoy my relationship with Ben because I've learned a lot about myself and who I am and things that I need to sort of like figure out being in it. And I mean, that's all you can ask for, you know, when you're doing that with someone. So.
Ben? Since that was such a natural pivot to you.
Don't feel like
No.
obligated
Come
to-
on. My worst relationship was actually prior to Carolyn. And because of this relationship, I was single for 6 years after, in my 20s, and I was waiting, you know, after that for her. Because I just, you know, I met her and I was like, yep. But I was in a relationship with somebody who had a lot of trust issues, and I could never establish a basis of trust, just inherently from her baggage, I guess you could say. Obviously, like when we're talking about responsibility, I do take responsibility for my level of toxicity in a relationship, but it was based on the fact that I was never trusted and could not be trusted. And I've just tried my hardest to make it a good one, but when you have somebody who doesn't inherently trust you, you're doomed to fail in the first place, hands down. So I was with her for about 2.5 years before I had finally had enough of said distrust and left and moved to Kansas City from St. Joseph. And then I waited until I could find somebody that I knew trusted me and that I could trust as well. And that's why I'm in the best relationship that I've ever been in my life. That was a ground that I definitely could establish with Carolyn. She's, you know, phenomenal and treats me very well. I am so happy.
Well, hell, if I was an ordained priest, I'd marry both of you right now.
I know, like the amount of googly eyes happening right now is amazing.
Just syrup. There's syrup. My feet can't even get off the floor
That's a beautiful thing.
It is
you know?
beautiful.
It's a beautiful thing.
It is. And we'll go to Chris.
You skipped
actually.
me. You can't.
I did, because I'm coming back to you. I'm coming back to you.
I want to get mine in early.
Okay, all right.
This is Dave. Not Big Dave, just regular Dave. That's 68. So I'm gonna this because I have a lot of firm beliefs about this because I watch a lot of people do this. So I think the most misused word in the world, misunderstood word in the world, is the word love. And we all think we want to fall in love, especially when we're young. And we do want to fall in love, and you want to be in love. You want to be that. But we don't understand what love really is.
Sometimes it's lust.
It's, well, Dave, in most of our cases, especially men and a lot of women, it is lust. Really is. Yeah. And you lust. You want to have that partner that you lust with. So my worst relationship, which is what I'll start with, which was after my divorce, I thought, keyword there was thought, I'd finally fallen in love. Well, that was the biggest clusterfuck, which I like. That's my favorite curse word, by the way. I had ever walked into in my life. I mean, after 4 years, I realized she was cheating on me, which is bad because, to be honest with you, I cheated on her. But you don't, it was that one time versus an ongoing relationship. Discovered it. And what I found out in that relationship was I didn't fall in love with her. I fell in love with her 2 friggin' kids. Yeah, that's who I fell in love with. And the reality was, it was giving up those kids until I found out that they didn't have any respect for me either. So, getting out of that relationship, and it was a pure vengeance relationship, I am absolutely the worst guy to do that to. Because I got, not only did I have a partner that I found was cheating on me, but I helped try to destroy her life and the guy's life, which I did, by the way. So, and I felt very good.
By the smile on his face is fairly amazing right now.
Oh yeah.
I was like,
well,
he was the happiest person on the
He was married also. He was married, having a relationship, and when I found out, I went, gee, I think I could fuck this up like Hogan's goat, and I did.
So is that what made you decide that you wouldn't
well, that's when I
get
decided,
involved anymore?
you know what, that's not true, because over the years I've had a lot of great relationships based upon the fact of having a relationship with a lady. Being with that one person, that's always the happiest moments. What I discovered is, in a relationship, it should be your happiest time. All the time. It should be that way all the time. and it's hard to do, but it just is what it should be. And my greatest relationship ended about 3 years ago. I ended it, and it happened to be with a married woman. And one of the reasons I liked her so much, see, I use the word like, not love, is because we had great conversations. She was smart as a whip, she was extremely attractive, and she was sexy as hell.
Was she a redhead?
Going back to what Big Dave said, lust. Because the reality is, I think that natural instinct of sex drives relationships, and so many relationships, to the wrong way. But sex is great, and anybody says it isn't, get the hell out of the room, you're a liar, and I know you're a liar. Because that's really, it's about that, and it's about the conversation, it's about getting along, it's about talking about similar things, it's about having agreements and disagreements without getting mad at each other. It's really tough. So, I'll go back to this once again. I think the worst thing that ever happened is this word love, because we don't understand it when we're young, and I'm not sure we all understand it even as we get older. Today's world, I have great friends who I love. But in the sense of a relationship, I would never, ever get into a serious relationship again. I mean, I might want to meet one of the Hall family's old sisters and get married because they got a lot of money. But other than that, that's money motivated.
That's the difference between being 30 and 68.
Well, I hope she's 90 so I can still go play
Bingo,
around.
that's what I'm talking about.
Real quick.
So that's my basic philosophy about relationships. I mean, there's been so many over the years, and most of them have all been great, except for that one. Even my ex-wife, we had a great relationship, we just grew apart. Now I'm done. Go ahead, Ben.
I would like to go back to the agreements and disagreements thing, and the fact that there are times in a relationship with somebody that you absolutely love and trust, and you get into a disagreement, and there'll be times when you'll be disagreeing and you'll just get very irrational, and sometimes you got to remember, if you're with the right person, that they've got your back and you trust them, and you need to let that bullshit, whatever's going on in your head, go and go, you know what, like, I know you got me, I'm sorry, like.
Learn how to say you're sorry is a very important thing.
Oh, of course.
It's hugely important.
If you're wrong.
If you're wrong.
It's
Absolutely.
hugely important. Yeah. If you are wrong, learning to be humble enough to say.
However,
Well,
with
don't
Michelle,
apologize just because you want to keep the peace.
Yeah.
No, but if
You
you
know?
know if you know that you really should, then learn it. And I think it's harder for men to get to a place where they're okay with apologizing.
Well,
because it just pride is a real thing with men. It's
Yeah,
a
it is.
real thing.
in that situation, men should get over it. Like,
I agree.
there's a time when you finally realize, like, oh, I'm an idiot. I thought the wrong thing. I said the wrong thing.
Oh yeah.
Please
Please forgive me.